Here's how you can trigger Zapier workflows from your Android phone. I'm Jimmy from Content Snare and Jimmy Rose, and if you'd like examples of cool automations you can implement in your business, make sure you hit that subscribe button below or head over to jimmyrose.me and just sign up for the email list if email is your thing, if that's how you'd like to be notified. Note, I did say Android phone, so iPhone users, I'm sorry. There is something similar to this. I haven't played around with it called Siri shortcuts, which you might want to check out if you want to trigger these kind of workflows using your voice with your phone. Also, depending on what you want to do, IFTTT is another automation product, and its integration with Google Assistant is a little bit better. So for example, I've got this one here that says add something to my Trello. You can create very natural voice commands with Google Assistant. I'm hoping this stuff is coming to Zapier as well, but as I'm recording this, the Zapier Google Assistant integration is actually in beta, so I'm wondering if it's going to get better over time. Right now with Zapier, you have to initialize the integration by saying, "Okay Google, talk to Zapier." And then it pops up and says, "Zapier here, what can I do for you?" It actually kind of looks like a conversation window. Now here's a little example of one of these running on my phone. "Okay Google, talk to Zapier."
Zapier here, what can I do for you?
"Send my wife an email."
What is the subject?
"What time are you home today?"
What is the message?
"Hey, just a quick check-in to see what time you'll be home."
Triggering send my wife an email now.
So you can see it's kind of cool. You can set it up to ask you for different pieces of data that you use in the rest of your workflow. So let's jump over and have a look at the actual setup of this. So here you can see we've selected Google Assistant and the voice message trigger. And we set up a trigger phrase of "send my wife an email." This is when Zapier came up and said, "What can I do for you?" This is what it's monitoring. I have had some issues with this while it's in beta. So right now I've actually been making sure the Zap name is exactly the same, just so there is no confusion there, and making sure there's only one phrase. And then these are the prompts for the additional information that you saw. So what is the subject and what is the message? And then these actually become data that you can use in the rest of the Zap. So if we continue, and you'll see, unfortunately it only gives you random testing data like this, where it says placeholder value instead of what I said. But we can at least map that through. I've created a send outbound email here. I'm literally just saying using email by Zapier to send an outbound email. Again, this is just for an example. This is not a real world thing that I'm doing, but we just simply map in the subject and the message just like we normally would with Zapier. And then I've got the email hard coded. And that's it for the setup. Once we turn that on, then we can go and use it in the Google Assistant, which is the exact example that you saw before. Now there are a few limitations to this at the moment. You may notice that there was no opportunity for feedback to me after I triggered the workflow with my voice. So you can't actually have Zapier run the workflow and then come back with an answer that you've defined in Zapier, unfortunately. And you also can't dynamically change those questions based on maybe the answer to a previous question. So I couldn't say, "Do you want to send this now?" And if I said no, it might ask me another question to say, "When do you want to send it?" Unfortunately, that kind of thing isn't possible yet. And the other thing is, if you get something wrong, you basically have to start over completely, like if it doesn't read your voice properly. So that's kind of a pain too, but if you speak clearly and slowly, it generally does work. For now, I'd be keeping these kind of things pretty basic. However, there still are a lot of different possibilities with this. I'd like to go through a few now, just to give you some ideas. So remember that if you're on a Zapier Premium account, you can run multiple actions based on that one trigger. So we could have a Zap that after we tell it something, it adds that to our to-do list and schedules a follow-up email 7 days from now to bounce back in our inbox or something like that. You could use search steps to look up a contact by the name that you say, and then return their email address if they're in your CRM, and then send an email to that person. So you can get, a bit more complicated there. And you can basically do anything with this, right? Like if you wanted to send invoices to your clients, imagine being able to say, "Send an invoice," and it would ask, "Who do you want to send it to? And what is the invoice for?" And then you look up the person, you get their email address, in another step in Zapier, and then send an invoice, like all with your voice. Like that kind of stuff is possible. Of course, this is getting fairly advanced. I am skipping over the process of creating actions and searches because I don't go into that depth in every single video. Otherwise, we'd add 10 minutes to every single video. If you do want to learn how to get set up with Zapier, even if you've not really used it much before, you call yourself a beginner and you want to get to that advanced level, I do have a course available at jimmyrose.me/Zapier. Go and check that out if you're interested, and that'll get you set up so you can automate all kinds of different parts of your business. Just a few cool random examples to finish this off. Just some random things off the top of my head that I wrote down before this. We could use our voice to send a tweet. Just make sure you speak clearly so you don't end up with something like Donald Trump's famous Kafefe tweet. You could post on other social media. You could use it to trigger to sending a Slack message in your company chat. And one random one that I plan on implementing is a voice-based daily journal. So I could say, let's record a daily journal, and it'll say, okay, what's something you're grateful for today? And I can answer that, and it'll say, what's on your mind? What do you want to get off your chest? And you could literally ask these questions that you would normally write down in your daily journal and just do it all by voice and record it. That's it for this video. Again, if you want to get some cool ideas for automations you can implement in your business, make sure you hit that subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.